Welcome to another relaxing video. Today we're going to have a comprehensive look at Last Epoch. The game now has officially moved out of early access. So if you're curious to know what this game is about and its mechanics, you're in the right place. But first, don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more relaxing ASMR gaming content, from Let's Plays to reviews and more. And now, let's get started. First of all, Last Epoch is an action RPG in the same vein of Diablo 4 or Path of Exile, and it's developed by 11th Hour Games, an indie developer. The action takes place in the world of Ithera, a land almost completely devoured by the void. Your mission, as the hero of the story, is to traverse the Epoch to save humanity. The game features 5 base classes: Mage, Primalist, Rogue, Acolyte, and Sentinel. Each class can then specialize in one of 3 masteries, meaning subclasses. Each one of them makes the character rather distinct from the others of the same class. For example, the Primalist can become a Beastmaster, so they will command a pack of animal companions. But they can also be a Shaman, so they will command the elements. Or they can become a Druid, and therefore shape-shift into various animals. Each class has a base passive tree, and you traverse it from left to right, unlocking nodes and active skills. Each node typically allows you to allocate 1 or more points to make its effects more powerful. After you have spent 20 points into the base tree and you have completed a quest, you will unlock the mastery of your choosing and its passive tree. From that moment, you can add passives both in your mastery and in the base tree. But, and this is awesome in my opinion, you will retain access to half of the passive trees of the 2 other masteries as well. So there's a massive room for build variety and theory crafting. You have a maximum of 113 passive points to spend, which you obtain by leveling up and completing quests during the main campaign, and the maximum character level is 100. Let's talk about the active skills now. Active skills become available as you level up and by assigning points in the passive trees. Also, the moment you unlock the mastery, you will obtain its signature skill. Overall, by the time you reach the endgame, you will have about 10 or more skills at your disposal. But you can only use 5 of them at a time, 1 with your mouse and 4 with a keyboard. But the real meat of the active skills is their passive tree. Yes, each active skill has its own passive tree, and you will gain 20 points overall to assign. This means more build variety and more theory crafting. These passives can enhance certain characteristics of the skill, like increasing its base damage or add extra types of damage like bleeding or poison. Or they can allow to convert one damage type into another, like changing all the fire damage of that skill into cold or lightning damage, and so on. By the way, you can easily respec the points you have assigned, or you can respec out of the skill and pick a new one. The same goes for the passive tree, with the only limitation that you cannot choose a different mastery. Let's take a look now at the gear and the forging system. As with most ARPGs, you'll encounter various types of gear. Last Epoch wants to be different also in this area. First of all, we have normal white items with no affixes. Then we have blue magic items with 1 or 2 affixes. Then yellow rare items with 3 or 4 affixes. And also unique orange items with their own special affixes that can define your build. But now we enter the Twilight Zone. There are purple exalted items that have 3 or 4 affixes like the rare items, but they're the only ones that can roll tier 6 or 7 affixes values, meaning the highest stats tiers. Additionally, there are unique green set items that provide bonuses when you obtain 2 or 4 pieces of the set. Then there are red legendary items. They can only be forged by combining a unique item marked with the label legendary potential and an exalted item. The resulting legendary will have the legendary affixes plus 1 or 2 of the exalted items for stats. Wait, I'm not done yet. There are also Weaver uniques, meaning special items infused with the Weaver's will. As you slay monsters while wearing one of them, the item rebuilds itself by adding and upgrading affixes. Once all the Weaver's will is consumed, you gain the fully upgraded item that has become a legendary at that point. Oh yes, there's more. We also have experimental items. These are dropped only by the mages locked in the rune prisons you will find scattered around the game. These items have a single experimental affix, which is a combination of 2 affixes not typically found on any other item. They can range from tier 1 to 7. This means that when they roll as tier 6 or 7, the item can be combined with a unique and forge a legendary. So yes, they went all out with the gear. Alongside the gear, there's the forging system, and I don't mean the legendary forging. That's a separate mechanism altogether. Each non-legendary or non-unique item has a forging potential, meaning you can either improve its affixes or add more if there's room. You do that by acquiring shards, glyphs and runes, all dropped by killing monsters. The best part is that all crafting materials are shared between characters, making the grind less painful, so you can get most out of the game as you keep playing. How do you forge? You open the forge menu at any time in the game select the item and improve its affixes, as long as the item has a forging potential greater than 0. Also, you can only forge affixes from tier 1 to 5. The highest tiers, meaning 6 and 7, cannot be forged as they can only roll on exalted and experimental items. Each time you forge, the forging potential of an item is consumed until it reaches 0, at which point you can't forge the item anymore. One final element to discuss about gear is the idols. These are extra items that you carry around, and they all have 2 affixes. They can't be forged, and most of them are class specific, but there are a few generic ones. Depending on the situation, you can use them to reach a resistance cap or add extra damage to a specific active skill. It's an interesting addition that gives more flexibility in completing your build, especially on the defensive side. Undoubtedly, the developers really want this game to be unique and stand out. They went crazy with the gear, but they did not stop there. They have probably solved the recurring problem players and developers have with ARPGs. On one side, in fact, you have players that prefer a self-found playstyle and don't like to trade and interact with people. On the other side, you have the opposite. Some players like to grind loot and sell it, so that they can buy better gear for themselves. So what do you do as a developer? If you balance the game for one type of players, you inevitably make the other unhappy and somewhat frustrated. Well, last Epoch developers seem to have found the perfect solution. As you travel around Ithera, you'll encounter 2 different factions to align with. Aligning grants reputation. This improves your rank and you earn favor, which can be spent on the faction's services and rewards. There are 2 factions, the Merchants Guild and the Circle of Fortune. The Circle of Fortune is a mystical faction that seeks fortune through arcane research and astrology. Alignment grants better item drops and allows the purchase of prophecies that will allow you to find specific items. That's perfect for solo self-found players. The Merchants Guild instead believes in prosperity through commerce. Aligning grants access to the bazaar, where you can buy items found by other players and sell your items too. You'll also be able to even sell set items, uniques, and legendary items. So this one is perfect for players that like to trade and upgrade their character in that way. So there you go, problem solved apparently. Note that you can switch faction at any time, but the gear you have acquired with one faction cannot be used anymore, unless you switch faction again. Finally, let's talk about the endgame. The campaign will take you to about level 60. At that point, there are substantially 2 types of activities at the endgame. The main one is to run the monoliths of fate. Basically, they are like islands where an alternate version of Ithera history takes place. Inside each monolith, there are zones called echoes. which you visit to accomplish a task, like killing a boss, or closing a monster spawning gate, or surviving a number of monster waves. Each echo has a modifier that makes the run more challenging. It can add extra monster damage, increase the resistances, health, etc. Completing the echoes without dying earns you a specific predetermined reward, like a unique, a rare bow or axe, extra experience, gold, etc. Successfully completing the echoes also earns you timeline stability. As the stability grows, you unlock 3 quests, with the third being the boss of that timeline. Each timeline boss drops specific items, so it makes sense to farm a specific boss, depending on your build or needs. As you move from one monolith to the other, monsters become more dangerous, meaning their level increases, reaching 100. Inside each monolith, you can and will encounter a corrupted echo that contains a corrupted boss. If you build a boss, that timeline will become corrupted as well, increasing the monster's level and their damage, but also the quality of the loot you can find. Initially, the maximum corruption you can reach is 50 for normal timelines. But when you complete the last 3 monoliths, you unlock the empowered timelines, where all the monoliths have monster level of 100 and start with a corruption of 100 as well, with no maximum limit. So that's where you truly test your build. The second activity you can do is running dungeons. Each dungeon has its own rules. First of all, to enter a dungeon you need a key, which is part of the random loot. And each dungeon presents you with an extra mechanic. For example, in the Soulfire Bastion dungeon, you gain a special shield that protects you from either fire or necrotic damage, but never both at the same time. So you have to switch from one to the other depending on the situation. Or another type of dungeon is the arena, where you have to survive hordes of monsters coming at you. Each time you complete the dungeon, you unlock a higher version, till you reach its max level of 100. Also, there's a special dungeon as well, the Temporal Sanctum, where you can forge legendaries. So yes, to forge a legendary, you have to survive a dungeon. You really have to earn it. If you die in a dungeon, the run is over, and you need another key to get back inside. But you will start from the beginning, not from where you died. This ends my overview of Last Epoch. Overall, it's a fun game to play, and a valid alternative to Diablo 4 or Path of Exile. It has got its complexities, but I found it easier to get into than Path of Exile, for example. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was pleasant, relaxing, and also informative at the same time. If you enjoyed, you can check out my other relaxing videos. The links should be on the screen and in the description. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, take care and stay relaxed. Bye bye.